California,
If you could see how violent that shaking must have been.
Japan,
widespread of the shaking and the damages.
and New Zealand
That we may well be witnessing New Zealand's darkest day.
have this in common. They sit right on a fault line, and it's caused devastation in the past. Those places all sit on the edge of their continental plate, but Australia is right in the middle. That doesn't mean earthquakes don't happen. In fact, they happen all the time. These are all the earthquakes that have hit Australia in the last 10 years. They're known as intraplate quakes. On average, there are 100 of them every year that are magnitude 3 or more. A 6.6 magnitude earthquake that struck Tennant Creek in 1988 is Australia's strongest on record. Remarkably, no injuries were reported, mostly thanks to the town being so remote. But sometimes they hit more populated areas. In 1989, an earthquake in Newcastle killed 13 people and caused billions of dollars in damage to the city.
It just shook and everything just caved in. Poker machines going down everywhere.
Even though Australia is not as volatile as some places, we do experience earthquakes around magnitude 6 once every 10 years or so. And that's exactly what's happened in Victoria.
We know that there are many faults crisscrossing the Australian continent. The Australian continent is very old, which means that it's been around for a long time and a lot tectonically has happened to it.
Most earthquakes happen at the edge of a tectonic plate, and it's caused by two plates either converging, diverging, or transforming. Those movements account for 90% of the world's seismic activity. But even in the middle of a tectonic plate, there are fault lines. Between New South Wales and Victoria, there's the Cadell Fault. It's what's known as an intraplate geological fault. The only sign of it above ground is this ridge caused by the Earth being pushed upwards. Geoscience Australia has estimated that the maximum credible earthquake this fault line could cause is 7.2. The damage from that would be catastrophic and be felt over a radius of 1,000 kilometres. So how do these intraplate earthquakes occur? Well, it's all still connected to the edge of the plate. The Australian plate is colliding with the Pacific plate to the north and east and the Sunda plate to the northwest. Australia is actually drifting northwards at a rate of 6 centimetres every year, and Western Australia seems especially keen to get there, moving faster than the east coast and turning the whole nation clockwise in the process. But it's not a big difference, just half a degree every 15 million years. This movement creates stress deep under the Australian continent.
Whilst we're not on a major tectonic plate boundary, the Australian continental crust is still being squeezed and deformed, and over long periods of time, the rocks will break when they experience these large stresses and release this stress. And unfortunately, that is in the form of these large earthquakes.
The problem with intraplate earthquakes is that they don't follow easily recognisable patterns. It makes them very hard to predict. We don't know when or how big the next one will be.